time commitment. Serving on a planning commission can be a significant time commitment. The other item, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, was when we have a board or a body that the city staff is responsible for creating agendas, minutes. It takes additional staff time to not only prepare those separate agendas and minutes, but also with our live streaming that we do. It's an extra effort to get those additional staff members trained on how to use the live streaming software. It has been problematic in the past, so it involves other staff members to set it up for each meeting, and then also keeping another group of individuals informed about what's going on, activities with the city. That takes additional time as well. So there's that staffing resource time commitment that's required to basically support an additional board. And so we see that with the city quite a bit. We have the planning commission that our staff supports. We also have the Honey Lake Valley Recreation Authority. We have the SUSANVILLE Airport Commission, and we also have the Lassen County Air Pollution Control District, right? So just a kind of an example of how we tend to spread ourselves thin. We also, our planning commissioners receive a small amount of compensation for serving as a planning commissioner. So we did list there as a slight fiscal impact if the city council wanted to take on those duties. Anyway, I hope I did your report justice, Margaret. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think you did it justice. Thank you so much. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you. Council, any clarifying questions on this? No? No questions? Okay. Public questions or comments on this? Nothing. Have a quiet public tonight. Okay, let's come back up here for council discussion. Any discussion, you guys?
I'm in favor of us taking it on for a while, see how it goes. If we ultimately don't like it, we can always at least try it for like a year. And see how it goes. Might put a little more on our plate, but that's all right. Let's give it a shot. That's where I sit with it.
Frank, a question for Danny. So how much extra time would it take your staff to set all this up? Is it gonna be significant? Is it gonna take you away from other projects that you guys are currently working on?
It's a great question, and Margaret may be able to answer that, because I'm not sure. Planning Commission is intertwined and ingrained with our city code, so I'm not sure what the plan would be to place a moratorium. Like if that would be a simple act, it would be an ordinance, like the council would have to adopt an ordinance to modify the code, but I'm not sure the mechanism that Margaret has contemplated for that to happen. Margaret, do you have any ideas on what we might need to do?
Because it is currently in your code, you would need to do a code amendment, which would require a first reading, a second reading, and then 30 days to adopt. You don't have to hold any planning commission meetings while this is occurring, so that you could do a de facto moratorium. If you don't want anything to occur while you're making this change, but you would have to do a formalized change since it is currently in your code.
How much time might that take, Margaret? How extensive would that code revision be in your estimation?
It is actually a pretty simple modification because what you have in your code is mostly the procedure to establish a citizen planning commission. Once that's removed, all you really are doing is following state law in terms of the council functioning as a planning commission. So the drafting of the resolution won't take an extensive period of time. It will take, again, a first reading and a second reading, which have to be 5 days apart, and then 30 days. So the fastest you can do it probably is about 60 days.
How efficient is our current planning commission as far as doing what they do? Are they regularly having meetings? Are they getting stuff done?
Yeah, I think, you know, the efficiency of the body is not in question. There's oftentimes where there's, you know, they have a meeting schedule, but there's no business needed, so we have canceled, I think, several meetings just because the body didn't need to meet to conduct any business. But, you know, when they're needed, it's typically not a problem to convene the body. The planning commissioners, like I mentioned earlier, are very, it's a very good planning commission, so they're attentive, responsive, and we don't have any trouble, to my knowledge, if we need to meet, getting them convened and having them conduct business. It's often driven, their work is driven by, you know, do we have a property owner in town that wants to develop their property, and is the nature of that development such that they have to get the approval of the planning agency within the region. So typically, like, say for example, we have a property owner who wants to develop their property, and in our zoning code, they can do that development, but they need a use permit. So the use permit is a discretionary act. It's got to go to the planning commission for approval, right? A lot of the items we could handle ministerially, where our administrative staff, like say for example a building permit, that is done just, you know, with our existing staff. The planning commission doesn't approve building permits. It's generally things that would create a difference in land use than what has been prescribed for a particular zone within our community. They also function as a hearing body for code enforcement items. So if there's an abatement order needed for a particular property, the planning commission has the authority to issue that abatement order, which is a legal process that we go through, and so they serve that role as well. They don't necessarily need to, they're not, how should I say it? The planning commission is not in charge of code enforcement, though. That's still the city council, and so code enforcement can still happen without the planning commission convening. There's just a role they have in the process if it gets to the cost recovery or abatement order phase.
So yes, question from councilors. I think we talked about this a while ago. I know the phrase, "If it ain't broke, don't fix it." What are we trying to fix? I forgot.
Eliminate time, because half of the planning commission's meetings we probably had maybe 4 planning commission meetings last year. There's just not enough stuff for them to meet with at this point. And so, Dan being here and having the attorney on staff, things that were coming that would go to the planning commission, don't have the attorney and they don't have Dan there. So it would be more eyes on it at this point if it came to the city, because we have the other people with the expertise that could say you can or cannot do this.
And I think also the other pro is that to have a planning commission meeting, it's another agenda that staff has to make. They have to notice, they have to post, and if the work's so small, like Councilmember Miller had said, where they're only having 4 meetings a year, that's such a small amount of work that it makes more sense to just handle it at a regularly scheduled council meeting where we do have staff available and we have the attorney present, and the staff doesn't have to perform additional administrative tasks when they're already doing a ton of stuff, Now we'd only have to prepare one agenda with occasionally a couple planning items on it, which I think we're all more than capable of handling.
Any other discussion?
I think they were lacking, or positions weren't all filled for quite some time too, right? That just recently came about. I mean, they didn't have a full committee for a while, so that was kind of an issue for a bit, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think think it's fully stocked right now.
Yeah.
We may have one alternate position open, but, we're back in full force.
And additionally, if we have a code enforcement case where there's an abatement order and it gets levied or, you know, imposed by the planning commission, most times, in my experience, they appeal it to the city council anyways, you know? So it's like,
That'll help to me. I mean, I've only sat through a handful of those in 8 years.
I guess that's just my experience, the few I've been involved with, they ended up at city council anyways.
Yeah, I think it depends on if it's a controversial topic. So typically, the planning commission's decision is appealed either by the applicant or the opponent of the project, right? And so we just haven't had that many of those come through. The most recent one that probably would have made it through the council was that 75-unit apartment complex up off of Newman Skyline. But it didn't make it through the planning commission because of the sewer district limitations to serve that property. And so the planning commission actually never acted on it. And so, and I think the applicant withdrew their application. So, yeah, it's an indication of maybe there are, some of those things are somewhat infrequent still. So it may not be a tremendous additional workload for the council.
Councilmember Parrish was a little concerned.
Well, no, I'm just thinking, we got people, just on the mind, if we have people who are willing to step up and do it, we're fully staffed, even though they may not have that much to do, but when they do have something they do it. Right? So, I'm thinking, I just don't want to, like I said, we have people, I'm of the mind frame of leaning towards keeping them because we have people who care about it and want to do it. I mean, are we really, is it being that more efficient for us to take on something? Because we have other things to do that we can get done. Do we want, are we taking away, we have things we want to accomplish, are we putting more on our plate?
I think we're helping the staff is what we're doing. You know, instead of having like them prepare 4 meetings a month, they can just prepare 2 meetings a month. And the work, you know, the amount of work that planning commission gets to is so small that it being one additional agenda item, I think this would be a way for us to help alleviate staff commitment from additional agendas, you know?
But we don't know how much time they're actually going to be saved. Is it going to be significant or just one less thing to do?
Well, I think it could be significant as far as an efficiency of staff time perspective, depending on the workload that's coming through, right? And so, but I think the process is enhanced in a couple of areas. One is that it brings those, you know, that information and material to the city council, right? So it helps the council be more aware. Like say, for example, our code enforcement program, if, you know, those items will be coming to council more readily, so you'll see what we're doing more readily with code enforcement, whereas, you know, those things aren't always, you know, making it to the city council unless there's an appeal. The other benefit is there's been several planning commission meetings where an attorney present would have been beneficial, or you know, having some additional staff there would be beneficial, right? And so what we would do is we would bring our planning staff into this council meeting, and you know, all of that information would be presented in front of, you know, the public works director, finance director, myself, our city attorney, and so that would potentially improve the process as well, right? And so those are some of the economies I think that we could gain by, you know, bringing that work to the city council. And the other thing is, like, I think in order to support the planning commission properly, you know, our city staff should be spending time with the planning commissioners, just like I do with the city council. And that, you know, we we hadn't necessarily been doing that very routinely. So there were some items that, would come before the planning commission, and, in order for them to understand what their role was, or, how they should appropriately act on that item, they weren't necessarily prepared or informed, because that time wasn't been given to them in certain scenarios, right? So some of our previous planning commissioners wanted our staff to have meetings so they could, provide information about the planning commissioner's role, all those types of things. And I think we had done some of that, but I don't think we were, doing a great job being very consistent in keeping our planning commissioners informed, right? And so that's an additional time commitment of our staff that we potentially could, economize by putting that onto the city council, right? And so then, those are the things that come along with having a separate board, right? And so when we're looking at, picking from a strategic planning perspective, picking goals and objectives, and then trying to accomplish as much as we can with our limited staffing resources, there's a lot to be gained by freeing up our staffing resources. And so that's what entices me about, the possibility of putting a moratorium on the planning commission. But yeah, I don't know that the system, as you mentioned, the council member Parrish, I can't say the system's broken. Yeah.
Okay. I have, the only concern I really have about this are the citizens. So right now, our citizens have a separate place where they can go when it comes to, what the planning commission, if they need to see the planning commission. They don't have to sit through all the city business and all of that. That is a meeting that is directed, or, specifically for them, if they have, okay. So I really like them having that. But the one thing that does make sense to me is that our attorney is not there, and we do have the attorney, which I could see where that would save so much time and heartache, probably. The one thing too that I'm concerned about is the potential conflicts. What if there is a conflict? Then what do we do? Because that was one of Margaret's cons on her list, was there could be potential conflict. So I know she can't talk, but what can we do about that? I mean, what would happen?
Yeah, Margaret, you want to ask?
I can jump and start addressing that, as long as my voice holds up, but there will be conflicts. Anytime you're dealing with property-related items and, city council, you'll have conflicts, but planning commissioners are gonna have conflicts as well. So, again, the important thing to remember is you just need to have a quorum to be able to move forward on an item. So it's just gonna be important for the council members to keep track of the properties and their proximity to their properties, and recuse when appropriate. But other than that, again, small communities are gonna have conflicts. We have provisions in place to work around that.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. So I'm willing to go then with whatever decision the council makes. You guys, whatever you guys think, either way. So, right now, I don't know
So
which
you
way.
need a motion?
Well, I'm looking, yeah,
Or what do we do?
direction, does the council, want us to move forward with the moratorium, which would involve preparation of an ordinance, as Margaret mentioned, first reading, introduction, and then the second would be the approval? Or would you like us to not move forward with that right now? I guess that's, because there's work to be done, right?
Right.
That we would have to, set, that ball in motion and prepare the ordinance for council's approval, consideration and approval.
Would you like a motion on that?
Sure.
Okay. Do I have a motion in a second?
Motion to move forward with the moratorium.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
There you go.
Thank you.
So, okay. All right then. Let's move on to the staff reports. department reports, I'm sorry. We're gonna begin with Jolene Arredondo, Assistant to the City Manager, and then we'll end with the City Manager, Danny Lee. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready. Hang over my part. I don't have much to report, but between now and the next city council meeting, the golf course is intending to open on Saturday, March 29th.
Oh, okay.
So later than we expected, but we're hoping to have a good weather week and then keep it open. And then Dave Martin just informed me that he'll be here on April 2nd just to provide an update on maintenance and operations and getting the golf course going again.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful.
Talking to cards.
Carts are on order today. In our staff meeting, we selected a color. So the fleet will come probably in 3 shipments, and then we'll swap out.
Not blue or.
There. What was, I forget the actual, moonstone is the color, so, it's like a, I don't wanna say graphite gray, but a little grayish shade, with a little, little shimmer sheer on it, so that'll be fun.
We can paint yours if you
No, I don't know.
Okay, Mr. Godwin, are you ready?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As council may be aware, the streets department gets funding from the SB1 bill. And part of that, when the state started that, they went to cities and asked them how much they had spent from their general fund on a certain year, and then they used that number as what they call a maintenance of effort. And so we have a maintenance of effort of $166,000 a year for the street department. For the general fund to spend on the street department to get the funding from the SB1, which is usually around $500,000. So Jordan, who is our new admin assistant, her first job was to catch up where we're at on the MOE. So we're as of February 13th, we're at $99,700, which the state allows us to use our rental rates for the equipment that the general fund has bought as part of our maintenance of effort. So that $100,000 range is right where we break even, because we get $60,000 from Measure P, which is general fund money. So that pretty much covers the MOE for the year. So we're good on the SB1.
All right. Thank you. Tamara.
Yeah, I don't have a lot either, but I do want to give you sorry, my voice, I've been sick. But I wanted to give you a quarterly update of our business license, and since January through today, we've had 4 new brick and mortars open up, and we've had 17 new business licenses from out of town, but they're here doing work, so they could be construction or something like that. So we're still getting businesses, which is positive. And then the other thing, we started our SUSANVILLE Spotlight, which is behind the counter, so that's what we're calling it. And we're going out and doing interviews, as I mentioned, and videos, and then we're helping market our local businesses. And we put that out there on our Facebook page, and we've gotten some really great responses. People are emailing and wanting to schedule their business, and we did our first one yesterday. This is in collaboration with Lawson College. Emily over there, and she runs the career center, and so it was really positive. It was good. Everybody seems to be very excited about it. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is last week I was invited to speak at the Seroptimus, and I did that, and it was really nice to meet everybody there. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Here we go. City Clerk.
Good evening. The only thing that I was going to bring up tonight is we have interviews between now and the next council meeting. I believe we have 4 interview dates set up for 4 different positions. We'll have the admin assistant for upstairs starts on the 31st, so that's before the next meeting. And I'm not gonna steal Chandra's announcement. She has somebody starting too, but yeah, other than that, same old stuff. Insurance renewals and pool employees are starting to roll in, so.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so as Heidi said, we have a new employee starting Monday. So there'll be a new face at the counter for taking bill payments and all that jazz. So we're very excited to have a new person back in the office because it's very busy right now. Let's see. You might recall when I presented mid-year, we were looking a little apprehensive at our sales tax numbers, but fourth quarter right now has actually, like when we got our reconciliation last month from the states, is looking rather well. So I'm cautiously optimistic right now to make sure there weren't any errors in the reporting when we have our tax consultant meeting in the next couple weeks, but that's a very positive news. But yeah, we just got done with mid-year and now we're moving into next year's budget. So department heads are already getting their requests and they're due to me at the end of the month. And then we're looking at just our tentative schedule just for you guys. It's looking like we'll do our initial budget presentation at the May 7th meeting. So just forewarning, that's coming.
We'll look forward to it.
Thank you.
Chief Bingo Bollinger.
Good evening. Want the good news or bad news?
Yep.
We don't have any bad
Good,
news.
we want to start
We don't
off
have any
good.
bad news.
Is that
Good.
good news?
That's the good news. The good news is Captain Johnson and Engineer Hoffman will be flying down south tomorrow to pick up your new engine, as long as everything goes well. So hopefully we'll see that up here Friday or Saturday. And we'll do a big, bunch of stuff will happen once it shows up, make sure it's up to par and it passes all the inspections and stuff like that when they get down there to look at it first. Also, a couple weeks back, everyone probably remembers the fireman going down the canyon and rescuing the dog and stuff like that. That's kind of created a monster in the fire department. These gentlemen have been interviewed by Inside Edition, so there's and it's negotiation time, so here it comes. There's no living with these guys right now. So the views they've got on the website were 52,000. The Inside Edition article hasn't come out yet, so 3 of them got interviewed. I've got photos of that, and it's bad. I apologize now. These guys it's bad. I'm just gonna say it's really bad.
Where do we see it?
I'm trying to think of the movie with Ricky Bobby, where he's putting his hands up.
Talladega Nights.
They're putting their hands up going, what do we do with our hands?
Oh, no.
Here we go. Yeah. So
Good to see it.
that's coming. The Inside Edition story will be out pretty soon. And then they just got interviewed yesterday by a young lady on YouTube who has 6 million followers.
Wow.
So that's going to come out. I'm really hoping that somebody would say, hey, would you like to try out our rescue gear free of charge? Absolutely. So nobody's done that yet.
Good marketing for Susan.
We're trying to.
Yeah, it is.
Trying to get some free equipment out of this. They did good. The fire guys and gals are staying busy. Everybody right now is off to successfully past their probationary periods. So Shasta Leroy was the last one. She just passed her probationary period yesterday. And they're all kicking butt. They really are. For the year though, our calls again for the fire folks are going up. Medical aids they're busy. 260 medical aids this year so far. No major fires. 6 minor incidents for fires and stuff like that. They're busy doing business inspections. It's that time of the year. They've already finished 90 of those. So those boys and girls are staying pretty busy. On our PD side, normal business as usual. They did run a traffic op on Sunday evening. A lot of folks think Sundays are quiet around Susanville, but our traffic's busy. So they did a DUI saturation patrol, and this is 4 officers conducted 30 traffic stops within a couple hours. They issued 20 citations, and 1 individual was arrested for being under the influence of narcotics. And that'll be referred to the DA. So it was actually a successful evening, seeing those folks, just trying to get them to slow down on Main Street as much as we can. Any questions?
I have a question. So I know how much you love animals, right? Has that dog been adopted that you rescued?
It just came up for adoption, I believe, last week.
Oh, okay. Because I expected you to jump in on that.
I got too many.
Because-
I love
I thought
dogs.
I could run into that dog, okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm glad he's up for that. That's happening and he's safe, and thank you so much.
So if anybody's looking for a dog, she's out at the shelter.
They said it's been adopted, this morning on,
Was it?
yeah.
That was great.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Newton, City Manager.
Sorry about that, I just almost out of battery. A couple things I wanted to report on. Firstly is the St. Francis abatement. As the council is aware, we have an abatement order in place for that structure. We have hired a consultant to assess the facility for hazardous materials, primarily asbestos and lead paint. We haven't gotten the report back yet, but however, we did get notified that there is asbestos material in the building that's going to need to be dealt with. And so I'm targeting the second meeting in April, which would be April 16th, to bring the demolition plans to council. We're going to have to put that out to bid because it's going to most likely exceed our threshold for doing it by a negotiated contract. And as we get the information from our hazardous material firm, we'll be able to identify, where that waste is going to need to be placed. We may not be able to take it all to our local landfill, so that's going to impact the costs for the abatement. And so we'll be able to develop, I think, a cost estimate and some bid docs, and we'll get those to the council for approval, and then we'll be able to go out to bid, and hopefully we can sometime in May get that bid awarded, and we'll be moving forward with the demolition. The other item I wanted to bring up is the city's housing element. So we have a consultant working on the city's housing element, which is a state requirement. We're actually behind schedule for that, but there's been a significant amount of work done. They've circulated an administrative draft that we're reviewing at staff level. There's been a lot of regulations adopted by the state as it relates to housing. And so what it's doing is it's putting some responsibilities on the city to implement additional programs. And so we're trying to just get by with kind of the bare minimum because of our staffing concerns and limitations, right? So we're working with the consultant on that, but once we get through it, it'll be circulated for public comment. I think there's a 90-day or 60-day public comment period on that, and just wanted to get the council an update. That should be probably coming out within the next month, that draft for circulation. I think that's all I had tonight.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then, thanks everyone. We'll move on to item 14A, which is future council items. Council. Okay.
Bring it back next meeting for approval to go give $500 of my allocated funds to the fishing derby for this year.
I'd also like to make an allocation to the powwow. $500, so
Okay. You have 1,000 each. You have 1,000. But, and it, what is June 30th would be the last day, or it's the fiscal year. So you haven't touched it.
I would like to also donate $500 to the fishing derby.
Anything?
Yeah, so, that time of year, I wanted to, it's been a year since we talked about the proclamations and potential flagpole, about having different flags on our flagpole. Just wanted to bring that back up for discussion. It's almost been a year now since we've had a moratorium on it.
Okay. All right. I think I gave 500 of my monies to the fireworks for the Uptown Christmas. I'd like to give 300 to the fishing derby. So So, there you go. Now you've got lots to, future council items. We all have
One
one.
item, it won't be that.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. So our next meeting is scheduled for April 2nd, that's our regular meeting. And, Councilmember Bortle, did you want to adjourn this evening?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll just like to adjourn this night's city council meeting in memory of Ryan Cochran, who served as police chief prior to Mike Bollinger, who recently passed away. So, just like us all to take a moment to recognize and remember Ryan for his contributions to the community.
okay, with that, our meeting is adjourned, thank you.
Almost made it.